mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts. How do we like our martial arts? We like them in jolly old England!
Across the pond!
Whoa!
We like our martial arts across the pond, and that's what we are getting, ladies and gentlemen, because we are 25 hours away from the start of the UFC's latest trip to London, UFC London, headlined by a now official welterweight contest between Leon Edwards and Sean Brady. And so let's talk about it. It's a preview show. You guys know the deal at this point. We're going to preview some fights. We might talk about some yacht rock. Who knows what kind of shenanigans we're going to get into. You see the name below. My name is Jed Meshew. I'm a writer for MMAfighting.com. It's a terrific website. And I am hosting this little shindig. And joining me, other than obviously you heard the man we'll get to in a moment, but joining us, I mean, I think he's my favorite person in MMA media, and that's no disrespect to anybody else. The king in the north, the owner of a Tesla, which I learned last night, Mr. Alexander K. Lee. AK, how we doing?
Hello, everyone. For the record, I married into a Tesla. All right, my now wife had a Tesla when we started dating. It's a fine vehicle. It was quote unquote before we knew Elon was crazy. You guys, mileage may vary with that, but yes, Tesla, fine vehicle. The politics behind it, maybe not ideal at the moment, but I'm not apologizing for it. She made a fine purchase, and I'm benefiting from it. So, hey everyone, UFC London.
Nothing to apologize. It is a perfectly fine vehicle that, potentially helps the environment. Not really sure. And also joining us on the ones and twos, baddest stash in the game, Mr. 3024 himself. No sleeves, no mercy. Casey Leiden.
Sleeves.
Oh, some sleeves. So there's some mercy today.
Yeah, I can roll them up a little bit. Yeah.
That's right. Roll them up.
Yeah,
get loose. But you don't have to do it early. We can ease our way into this because we have actually, how many fights do we have to talk about? Not that we're going to talk about all of them. 13 of them, all fighters successfully made weight this morning, AK. So barring the proverbial banana peel, looks like we're getting 13 fights. This card is set to go at 1 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. And so, AK, let's start in a place that I know you've moved away, but I'm trying to bring back because I really respect it. And it's this. What's our gymnastics score for Saturday? Because you see over my shoulder, I've given this 5.5 fights above replacement muscles.
That's high, right? Isn't it for a fight night card? 5.5? Isn't that a good number?
That's high. That's really high for an Apex card. For a fight night card, it's about standard issue.
Okay.
There are 3 fights that are definitionally above replacement. We have 3 ranked matchups, the main, the co-main event, and the Marcin Tybura Mick Parkin fight that we may end up discussing. There are a couple of other fights here. I think Gunnar Nelson, Kevin Holland certainly rises to that level as well as something that is above a replacement level fight. And then I was feeling a little generous. I think Nathaniel Wood, Morgan Charrier, that's just a really good matchup that I enjoy. And give it another half because Molly McCann's competing. A couple of prospects who I'm marginally interested in. So perfectly reasonable scorecard. This is this is a Saturday that's worth your time. This is not an apple picking card as far as I'm concerned, but perhaps your gymnastics score says otherwise, AK.
First of all, big shout out to Guilherme Cruz. If you guys saw weigh-in results this morning, normally I'm the weigh-in guy. You know what I mean? If you go to MMAfighting.com, you see the weigh-ins, results, the live recaps and all that. You see my name there, my byline. But I was unavailable this morning, so Guilherme picked it up, did a spectacular job. So thank you, Guy.
How sad were you to not cover the weigh-ins? Because that's your favorite thing.
And it was a perfect one. No one missed. I love to see perfect weigh-ins. We had a little bit of drama with Christian Leroy Duncan with CLD just showing up quite a bit late, and he needed the box. But otherwise, everyone made. So fingers crossed. We don't wake up to one of those Saturday morning UFC news card updates where it's like, oh, sorry, weight cut related, illness, and someone could make it. So let's hope every fight stays on. Though, I'll be honest, the amount of fights is kind of affecting my rating. This is a lot of fights. We said this is 13 fights.
13 of them.
Boy.
Does start at 1 p.m., which is nice.
Sure.
But 13 is a, that's a little more than probably ideal.
I like a lot of the names on this card. I like a lot of the matchups. I think a lot of these fights can go to decision, which is not a bad thing. I never want to say like, oh, every time fights go to decision, well, that's bad. That's bad. It's like you could have a card with really entertaining decisions, and this card could have those. But I do think even in a best case scenario, like this card is going to drag at times. It's a lot of fights, a lot of fights. I love the top two fights. I think both very intriguing. And again, there's good matchups down the way. I'll go a bit high. Like I think I'll definitely go higher than Apex card. Let's just settle at a flat 7.0. Let's not get too granular with this. This could be a 7 out of 7 card, which means like we'll remember it more than we have some of the recent Apex events. Like we've had several Apex events that have been pretty solid. I would say for the most part lived up to their potential. Like I set the bar really low. Like I think last week's card or the card before last week was like 5.4 out of 5.6, which sounds like amazing, which is like that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I know we've set the ceiling really low, but that's kind of what you have to do with some of the UFC events these days, just because of the frequency of them. So 7 is a relatively high score, kind of like with the fart rating, right? It's relative to fight nights, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I think if everything works out for the UFC, this could be a 7 out of 7. Otherwise, like a 6.5, 6.4, even a 6 out of 7, I think would be a nice way of spending fights. But yeah, I can't set the bar too high here.
I think that's fair. This is certainly not a bad card. Like I'm much more interested, frankly, in speaking this weekend about this card than I was for Vegas 104 last weekend, which I think came through. We try to be peppy and optimistic, but Vegas 104 was what Vegas 104 was. AK, how about this though? Because we know at this point the UFC comes to London about once a year, not always. I think Birmingham was their last trip to England. I think they haven't. I don't think they went to London last year. I think 2023 was the last time. In the recent history, kind of how does this card stack up against the other London forays? If you are a Londoner, you are going to the fights. Are you feeling better or worse than the last time the fights came to you?
I think you're feeling slightly worse, unfortunately. I know it's great to have a former champion in there. So I'm looking at the last visit. We had Aspinall Tabura. Molly McCann, always popular, though she didn't win that night. But if we're just talking about on paper, like how it looked kind of going in, it was kind of a night. It wasn't a bad card. Lauren Murphy was on there. Undercard had Joel Alvarez. Future heavyweight star Mick Parkin. People may not have realized they were witnessing greatness there.
Mick Parkin and Marcin Tybura fighting on this trip to London specifically. Wow. Both were competing last time, just, not against each other. Now, a year and some change later, we've solved that.
Yeah, a lot of the same names: Shauna Bannon, Jai Herbert, Nathaniel Wood. They've got accommodating dates for these fighters. Why not put them on these cards whenever they go to London? So yeah, good times here. So I would say slightly better. Not that was like a blockbuster card. I think that card on paper a little bit stronger. I'm just looking at some previous. Of course, you had a pay-per-view, UFC 286. So of course obviously that's going to be better. Yeah, Edwards Usman. This was the we just saw the rematch mania of Gaethje Fiziev and Vettori Delice. So you guys got it. It's still fresh in our minds. What getting those sweet rematches. Outside of that, I'm trying to. What was the last just knockout? 2022.
It's pretty good. The 2022 card was pretty decent.
Yeah.
That you got Tom Aspinall. The Tom Aspinall was still ascending, right? And then that also ended poorly. That was the Curtis Blades fight. But you got Patty. I think that honestly, that's sort of what I'm getting at with this question is I'm really noticing the lack of Patty on this card because Patty is now elevated. He's to a different tier from just a fight night. And I'm noticing like one more little bump, one more piece of juice here to really send this over to like an elite fight night card is just sort of lacking because the star power isn't there because now those stars they're doing other things, right?
Yeah, you're right because he would be slotted perfectly at that time. Well, not now. Now he would have to be at least the co-main, but he would have slotted in perfectly before the Jan Ulberg fight. With respect to Gunnar Nelson, Kevin Holland, and Molly McCann and Alexia Tanada, with respect to those fights, they don't have that juice of a Paddy Pimblett fight. But like you said, he's kind of in a different realm of popularity now. It just wouldn't make sense to. They don't
he's
need
co-main
him to
in a
sell
pay-per-view.
They don't need him to sell tickets for this card, I guess is what I'm saying. I think they know they're going to, well, anytime they go on the road now, of course, they're crushing it. So, yeah, it is missing a Patty, just something. I'm even looking like an Arnold Allen.
Arnold Allen, yeah.
Wow, we had Ilya a few years ago. Yeah, it's maybe, again, and maybe it will age well, Jed. Maybe there will be someone on this card will be like, wow, can you believe Lonir Kavanagh was on the prelims. Can you believe Mick Parkin, 2026 now heavyweight champion? Can you believe he was once on the prelims? Just
Never know.
12
You
months.
never
You never
know.
know. You
That's
never
what they
know.
say about Mick Parkin. You never know.
You never know. So I would doubt it. I would doubt it. Because on paper, I do feel like this already looks weaker than the last visit to London, but maybe someone will surprise us and emerge. That's the great thing about cards like this, right? Is you never know. It's just one big Mick Parkin,
It's true. There's a lot of potential. Honestly, Masters of the Universe commented a list of fighters who aren't on this. And if you just look at the list, it makes sense that they're not. They are all beyond doing, feature bout duty on a thing. Maybe Oben Elliott actually wouldn't be a bad thing, but Michael Venom Page, he's not doing feature bouts on a fight night. Like, he's co-main or main. Paul Craig maybe could do it, but that's just sort of where we're at. Arnold, Ian Machado, Gary, like, these are dudes who might normally be in a card like this and aren't. Still, we're getting a good card, which I'm excited about. And as I've mentioned multiple times, kicks off at 1 p.m. Eastern. Terrific. Means we won't be up all night waiting for a main event that could potentially end up not being very fun. It certainly will be interesting, though, AK. So let's turn to the main event. Leon Edwards, former welterweight champion, making his return to action for the first time since losing the title to Bilal Muhammad. And he goes up against the surging, might be a bit generous, but the rising Sean Brady, who is on a nice win streak since he himself lost to Bilal Muhammad. So I guess let's start here. What's at stake in this fight? You got two guys who their most recent losses are to the current champion, but are also in the top 5 of the weight class. Leon Edwards is number 1, currently the number 1 contender, at least per UFC ranking. So what's at stake here? Is a title fight on the line between these two? Because it seems like it might, like, that probably isn't the case.
I can't imagine either guy just immediately stamping their way to a title shot. I think that's a big ask. You never know if there's a spectacular finish. Of course, it could happen. If Leon does the headshot dead in the first round to Sean Brady, could be spectacular. If Sean Brady even has like a dominant 3-round decision win, like that could catapult him. But again, we know Shavkat's out there. It really feels like Shavkat has to get the next shot as long as he's healthy. There's just almost no way either of them leapfrog him. And that's okay. And I would hope that Leon and Sean Brady realize that. Now, Edwards does have the bonus of being a former UFC champion. Once you're in that title sphere, you are someone who, like, you just usually you just need one win, and they'll throw you at the champion. But it's a different situation because he has that history with Bilal. If Jack Della Maddalena becomes a champion and then he needs fresh challenges, he would fight Shavkat first. Let's say he beats Shavkat. But if you're Leon, you're coming off this win at UFC London, you could probably wait. Then you're probably getting the shot at Jack Della Maddalena because Leon was supposed to fight him in this Saturday's main event anyway, right? So there's there's a clear path for Leon. It's more convoluted. Brady, I just don't know how to evaluate him. He went from blue chip prospect to contender pretty quickly. We had the humbling loss to Bilal. No shame in that. Bilal is the UFC welterweight champion. And then he's looked really good in his last 2 fights. So it feels like he should be closer, but he's also one of those guys who I feel like his branding isn't super strong. The popularity just isn't there. He's lacking a hook. And again, I like Sean Brady a lot. I think him and his team did as much as they could to sort of get his name out there. I know he did a ton of interviews when he was sort of coming up, even before he got to the UFC. So they did everything they could the traditional way, but there's only so far you can take a fighter who just doesn't have a hook. So even if he beats Leon, I don't know if he's going to be able to cut some sort of fire promo that's going to convince the UFC. But this is a very meaningful fight for Leon as far as if he loses to Brady, boy, that's going to push him a year away from a title shot at least. I mean, that's going to need he's going to have to go on another run to get a crack at whoever has the belt a year from now. And for Brady, this is the real test because for a long time, people have seen him as a future champion. And Gilbert Burns, great win. Don't get me wrong. He's beaten some tough guys, but this is legitimately a former UFC champion. So if he can impress here, it raises that ceiling again. I know his stock got hurt by the Muhammad fight. It raises ceiling again, and you could absolutely talk me into, you can talk anyone into, I think, him challenging for the title within the next 12 months.
Yeah, man. Welterweight got real weird real fast because it seemed like we had a clearly defined hierarchy. And then the Shavkat injury just makes this all so very curious, AK, because I agree with you. nobody's jumping Shavkat. Whenever Shavkat is physically able, I believe he is going to get the next title fight. But him, and if he had fought at what 315 or whatever, as like the initial plan was, all of this sort of rolls seamlessly. The winner of this has a really good case to sort of get another crack at Bilal. There are other guys coming up. Maybe Machado Gary ends up, fighting somebody, trying to think like maybe he is. Oh, I'm sorry. Leon was supposed to fight Jack Della this weekend. So if Shavkat doesn't get injured, Jack Della fights Leon. The winner of that, certainly right there, conversation. Ian Machado Gary out there. A couple of other dudes in the periphery. Joaquin Buckley. Now it's really curious, especially if Jack Della wins. Like Islam Makhachev might suddenly be a player at welterweight. So I just don't know. I don't think a win guarantees anybody anything, but it certainly keeps them with the potential to sort of slide into a title fight if things, break right for them. But on the other end of that, AK, how bad is a loss for either man? Because your best friend Mike Heck has said at least once this week, if not multiple times on other shows, the loser of this fight will never fight for a UFC title again. Do you agree? Is that what's at stake here?
No, I won't say never. I won't say never because, again, I do think if there's a new champion, like Jack Della Maddalena or Shavkat, again, but remember, if Bilal loses, he's probably not getting an immediate rematch. He's probably gonna have to climb his way back to the top, right? So, and it's not fair. It's not fair. Bilal and Leon both went on incredible win streaks to earn their opportunities. Really, they're more worthy of immediate rematches than some other champions who lost and then got immediate rematches. Like theoretically, Bilal and Leon should have gotten his, and Bilal should get his if he loses. I think. I don't think so personally. Like I wouldn't want to see it, but I'm saying based on precedent, if they called for it, they would have a case. But the UFC, I assure you, has no interest in giving. They don't want to see Leon with the title again. Sorry, Leon. If Bilal loses it, they probably don't want to see Bilal with the title again. They just haven't connected with fans for one reason or another. You could say it's their fighting style. You could say it's whatever, people not connecting with their personalities for whatever reason. Sometimes those things just don't work out. So that's why this is so pivotal for Leon. Because like I said, it's maybe I'm being generous. I said it'll be a year before he's even in the title conversation again. But if there is someone who needs fresh challengers, Jack Della Maddalena, Shavkat, maybe someone else down the road that surprises us and becomes welterweight, Islam Makhachev, I don't know. In that case, Leon will have a chance. He's a former champion. He's a great record. Has enough of a name to be a B-side if you have the right champion. As for Sean Brady, I think I don't want to say never. Like, I don't want to say never. I know my best friend has that take for Leon, and I don't want to say that about Sean Brady. But I almost feel like if he loses... So Sean Brady's in his prime. He's 32. He'll turn 33 later this year. I feel like if he doesn't beat Leon, we will get a really, really strong indication of how good he is. And he could be top 5. He's top 5 now, I guess, with being Gilbert. And he could be a top 10 contender for a long time. But this is a real big step up opportunity. So I actually think it's Sean Brady's chances that are going to get hurt way more if he cannot at least put on a competitive fight with Leon, even in a loss. So for me, he has to impress.
I think I would agree that Sean Brady has slightly more, just because, like you said, Leon does have that former champion title. That helps. I am sort of in agreement with your best friend Mike Heck, though. I think it's really unlikely that either gets to a title fight if they lose. I won't say impossible. We've seen a lot of things happen in this sport. You never want to say never unless it's about John Jones fighting Tom Aspinall. Then never is the appropriate word to use. But for something like this, it just seems really hard, because at that point, if you're Leon, you are going to be in the, hey, you got to fight a bunch of the up-and-comers for a while to hold your spot. And Sean honestly would be in something similar given where he's at. So we've chatted around this fight a little bit. AK, main event tomorrow. Give us your breakdown, your prediction. Who is getting their hand raised and who is going to be the person that suffers that unfortunate setback?
Man, I probably haven't been looking at this one closely enough. I'll be honest. I think I made a judgment as soon as I saw the matchup made about a month ago. And I'm just curious, what are the odds now? So I know Leon has been an underdog for most of the week. I don't remember if it opened up that way.
Let
I'm
me
gonna
pull
check
up our current odds right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna check up. I will as well. Let me check
Leon
our buddies
Edwards,
at
still
FanDuel.
the underdog. Our
Really?
friends at FanDuel have Leon Edwards at plus 130. The comeback on
Wow.
Brady around minus 160. And that's held pretty true. That's mostly been the odds for
Yeah.
the full week.
You and I spoke earlier this week, I think probably on Monday or Tuesday, and I said before you recorded No Bets Bar, and I said I'm gonna take put a little $5 on Leon now just to see because I have a feeling it will move. It'll get closer to a pick'em or even maybe like minus 110, minus 115 Leon by fight night, and I guess I was wrong. Looks like things have remained steady.
Hasn't moved at all.
I am really surprised. I don't know if people are so discouraged by the Bilal loss, if they're so discouraged by him kind of his, he was saying he didn't like having to fight at that early time, the pay-per-view time. He's not old. I know he's old in fight years. This is pro fight number 28 for him. I know he's been fighting and training for a long, long, long time. This is year 14 for him. And Sean Brady's on a nice streak, and he looks good. Listen, Sean Brady, for those with Sean Brady stock who's been holding on to it, you are very happy right now. You're probably thinking it's almost like you cash out in the future, but like it's still rising. But I just think people are really, I just think they're underestimating Leon so much. Like, I don't think he's a bad wrestler. I guess it's just the image of him getting controlled by Bilal so much. And in parts of the first Usman fight as well. Like I understand, it's not like he has lockdown takedown defense, but I don't think he's not helpless on the ground either. He has good offensive wrestling too. Like I'd be interested to see if you implement that against some of that against Brady. And I don't think it's gonna be strictly a wrestling fight. And when it comes to striking, I certainly give Leon an edge. Not that Brady is bad, so I give Leon the slight edge in so many categories. I'm not picking him to finish, but I am picking Leon to win by decision. And don't take my advice, people, please, for gambling. Again, there must be smarter than people than me because there must be a reason that money is still coming in evenly and the line hasn't moved. But I like Leon in this one. I'm just not ready to count out the champ yet. One last note, Jed. I am 0 for 7 picking UFC fight nights this year. 3-0 pay-per-view main events, but some. Thank you. Pay-per-view main events 3-0. Some of those have been pretty damn easy. But fight nights somehow 0 for 7. So so in that sense, I'm due.
Just means you're due.
Maybe you should listen to me.
Just means you're due. And also, AK, I mean, I don't know if you remembered this or not, but Leon Edwards is your wild card selection for your fantasy team for this season. So you got a lot riding on Rocky, the former champion. We've got last week, nobody was in play, so that was kind of boring. Got a few people with some individuals in play. That is your one this week. So good luck to Rocky. I am in agreement with you. I won't be at all surprised if Sean Brady wins this fight. I basically think it is a coin flip. I think the odds are the way they are because how Leon looked against Bilal, and I know he's had a lot of explanations, excuses, whatever. He gave up like 10 takedowns on 12 attempts. If Sean Brady starts to get takedowns on him, this is going to be a snowball rolling downhill in a bad way for Leon. I do think that historically Leon Edwards has been a much better defensive wrestler than he showed against Bilal Muhammad. Certainly Kamaru Usman had success against him, but also did not find it easy in the way Bilal did. I think Bilal maybe is just still being underrated by people for how good he is. And I have, perhaps this is me still just holding on to Bilal beating the soul out of Sean Brady. Sean Brady feels a little less proven to me. And so in a coin flip fight, I'll take the guy that I at least feel confident in what he is, even if his last performance wasn't all that inspiring, but won't be at all surprised. Do think this fight's going long though, because like 17 of Leon's 18 UFC fights have gone into the third round. So yeah, but that's our main event. The co-main event though, AK, still a pretty interesting one. And frankly, a fight with very similar circumstances to the main event. You got a former champion in Jan Blachowicz coming back after a fairly long layoff to take on a rising contender in Carlos Ulberg. And so, AK, I guess let's start with the same question I asked you about the main event. What's at stake in this one? Because Ulberg's on a 7 or 8 fight win streak right now, and we just got a new champion in the light heavyweight division with Magwan Ankalaev up. Not even really upsetting. His fight was basically a pick'em, but dethroning Alex Pereira to take the title. So what's at stake in this matchup this weekend?
Did you know Jan Blachowicz is 42 years old?
Sure did.
He's
coming off a serious shoulder injury.
42 years. Sorry, pardon me, Jan. 42 years young. He's a fresh 42. Jenny just turned 42. He's not like an old 42. He just turned 42. There's a lot of stake here. I mean, I genuinely think if Carlos Ulberg wins, like I don't see why he should have to fight again for to get a title shot. So once
You have yet to unmute yourself, Hero.
there, thank you. Sorry. I understand. I had to cough there. I understand if you look at his overall record, Ulberg, it's not like that strong. The biggest win is the one he just had. He just beat Volkan Oezdemir, a one-time title challenger. So there's a luster to that win, and then there's just the overall.
And your guy, Volkan Oezdemir, your guy.
Yeah, big time. Stand by him. I think he's gonna be top 10 until like 2028. Right, this guy's not going anywhere. And just the strength of the win streak and the strength of the results. It was like there's 5 finishes in there. The marketability is very strong. We've talked about handsome Carlos Ulberg all the time, blah, 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 blah. So I genuinely think if he plays his cards right, puts on a good performance against Jan, he can wait for a title shot. Like, I don't know. I don't think like Ankalaev and his team are like eyeing it. I don't think they're like, oh, we'll wait to see what happens with Ulberg at UFC London. And then that could be our next guy. Judging by the quote unquote tweets from Ankalaev, he apparently has something already in the works, but again, we don't know. That sounds like management shenanigans. We don't know if anything is actually set in stone. Could just be the Pineda rematch. But either way, Ulberg's in a really
likely it's that.
Yeah, either way, Ulberg's in a really good position. He could certainly he beats Jan. He can certainly becomes the backup. They haven't been doing that this year. They haven't been having backups for title fights, but he could certainly become the backup for a light heavyweight title fight. So huge opportunity for him. Jan, like theoretically, it's so weird. Like a win should also get him a title shot, but I just don't think they're looking forward to that because both guys, whether Pineda or Ankalaev, should that rematch happen, he has the history with, right? Very competitive fight with Ankalaev, ended in a split draw, which I think Dana White is angry about to this day. And the close, a hard fought like loss against Alex Pineda, the split decision.
Split decision.
So he has more than earned like his right to fight either of those guys. I just get it that the UFC. This is kind of why I opened with the age thing. Like, it's not fair to judge him on that because he's still a very high level light heavyweight. He's still one of the 5 best light heavyweights in the world, even over the age of 40. But I just don't know if the UFC is that eager to get him back in there, especially if Pineda wins. Let's say Pineda gets Ankalaev, wins the rematch. I don't know if they want to risk Jan having another competitive fight with him and then possibly taking the belt from Pineda. So it's a tricky situation. But I do think if Ankalaev defends his title once, I don't see why Jan can't come off of this and get that rematch, other than the fact that, again, it will sell 25 pay-per-views. But again, I don't know. They have very few guaranteed pay-per-view movers anyway, so that shouldn't be their motivating factor. But yeah, Carlos definitely the one angling for a title shot position here.
Yeah, I think Carlos, if he wins, is getting in the next title fight. Not the next one. I believe the next will be a rematch between Pereira and Ankalaev. And I think if Carlos wins, that'll just be enough to get him over the hump to sort of – he's a fresh face. They love a fresh face. I think if Jan wins, the UFC will probably be a little upset. Like, not mad at him for winning, but just like, this isn't the outcome we really wanted to happen here. And I also just think that at that point, Yuri, certainly if Magomed Ankalaev wins the rematch that I assume will happen with Pereira, then Yuri becomes the front runner to sort of get the next crack at Ankalaev, because that will be new. Yuri coming off an impressive win, and that just seems more in line. So kind of feeling where we go. The odds, AK, currently have Carlos Ulberg as a healthy favorite, -290 per our friends at FanDuel. The comeback on Blachowicz at +225. Talked about sort of what's at stake here. AK, who is ultimately going to get their hand raised and get to eat that steak on Saturday night?
Man, Jan is such a huge step up for Ulberg, isn't he? Isn't he a huge step up? Like, aren't we all looking at this saying, like, we know Jan's a pretty complete martial artist. He's been doing this forever. He has beaten many opponents, vastly superior, more skilled, heavier hitters than Carlos Ulberg. Damn, that 42 years old. Again, even at light heavyweight, like an old division, older fighters can thrive. Like this isn't bantamweight, featherweight, light welterweight. This is essentially light heavyweight or heavyweight, where you could probably be competitive in some leagues somewhere and into your late 40s. That's just the way these divisions are. How old is Carlos? Carlos is 34.
Carlos is not actually that young.
No,
he just feels much younger.
Oh, for light heavyweight, 34.
Sure.
34 is not bad. 34 is not bad. As you can tell, guys, I had not made my pick before the show. Like I said, Leon, I was going to go Leon. Since that matchup was announced, I was going Leon. This one, I've gone back and forth since it was announced. I've loved the matchup on paper. Like, I think that's part of the appeal of it, is it feels like it go either way, and it feels like we would be happy seeing either guy win. It would just hopefully move the title picture along. More with UIberg, but with Jan, it's like we all like Jan, and for him not to have a win since I think 2022 just sounds so weird. Again, he has missed time because of injury, but all right, I will go. Boy, I'm gonna go real conservative here, Jed. I'm picking Jan. I'm picking Jan by decision. I just think the skill gap is still significant. I don't think he's so I don't think his athleticism has declined so much that UIberg's just be able to run through him. I could be wrong. This could be UIberg just dancing on him for like 5 minutes before knocking him out in round 2. Completely possible. But just from what we know of Jan, what we've seen from Carlos, I will lean with the veteran for now. So main event, co-main, I'm playing pretty safe, going with the former champions. But that rarely plays out that neatly. So I'm really curious what you got to say about it, Jed.
Backing the proven commodities. I'm not doing that on this one. I think Jan Blachowicz will make this ugly because he is a really hard fighter to look good against. Very defensively capable, just super well-rounded. He's 42, coming off an 18-month layoff and major shoulder issues. None of that is good. The shoulder stuff is really like the most concerning because I have shoulder issues and I'm younger than Jan Blachowicz. And granted, I'm not a professional athlete, but also like he's 42 and with shoulder issues. Those are like shoulders just don't get better with age. And that is a genuinely concerning thing going on for me here. I think that this will probably be closer than the odds suggest just because Jan is very good at that, at making you really have to work hard to beat him. But I'm going to pick Carlos UIberg to take a decision here. Just younger, more athletic, not coming off major shoulder surgery and a huge layoff. And, it'll be terrific if the legendary Polish Power shows. That would just be a fun wrinkle. But at some point, the bill comes due. Father Time comes to collect. And 42, even in a weight class like light heavyweight, that's really pushing the envelope. So I think Carlos UIberg will get it done, establish himself as the next title challenger at 205 pounds.
If he UIberg just smokes Jan, which again I'm not expecting to happen. Let's say he just smokes him. Let's say we're the athleticism gap, the age gap is just too much. How many more Jan Blachowicz fights do you think we see in the UFC? I'm not going to say how many in his career because I think a KSW homecoming is inevitable. Whenever his UFC run is over, that KSW contract, that thing has been drafted already. They just need to change a few dates here and there. He will come home someday, and we will all be there to watch it, and it will be beautiful. But his time with the UFC, I also imagine he's kind of a big ticket item for the UFC at this point. He has to be making 6 figures per fight. And if you guys have noticed, the UFC has been the last few years has cut a lot of those guys and replaced them with 3, 4, 5, 6 contender series fighters. What do you think? Let's say he gets laid out first round, barely half round in, just gets laid out. How many more UFC fights?
1 to 2. Right? Like if he gets laid out, if he loses a competitive decision, I think that he obviously still believes he's got the juice and he can make another run. And who are we to tell him different? But if he gets laid out, maybe he'll reconsider and say, okay, I can't. And like, I had never considered it until you just said that, but like him versus Phil DeFries for the KSW heavyweight title, sign me up. Sign me up for that sort of chicanery. Like that is just the best stuff ever. So probably a couple more, but I wouldn't say that many more with a loss coming in. Big stakes for the Fantasy League as your best friend has Jan Blachowicz and Casey backed Carlos UIberg. So a little head-to-head matchup going there as well. A lot going on in the co-main event.
Francis Marshall in the comments says, roided up Jan in his mid-40s at KSW, LOL. Give me Uber Jan. I am ready for Uber Jan. I hope that is how...
Darko Stozic, watch out, baby. Jan is coming for that light heavyweight title in a couple of years.
I just want to see him more muscular than like he's ever been. Like I just want to be like, oh wow, he's eating really well. Like he just left the UFC. He's gone home. He's eating well. Like look at him. Look at those muscles. Looks fantastic.
That would be the best. Okay, AK, we got some other fights to talk about. We're going to play a game for our penultimate segment here. A game I'm calling Diversify Your Portfolio. So we've talked about the main and the co-main event. What I want you to do is I want you to pick a fight on the main card, a fight on the undercard, a fight on the main card we haven't talked about, I should clarify, one undercard fight, and one fighter to watch, and give me your kind of quick establishment of why you're interested in those fights, that fighter, et cetera, et cetera.
Main card, I am really interested in Jordan Vucinic. I'm probably messing that up. Sorry, Jordan.
I believe
and
it's
Chris Duncan.
Vucinic.
Vucinic, thank you.
I think
that's
so.
a great.
Could be wrong.
That's just. Listen, these two guys have been both great additions to 155. Jordan, I think, took his. He lost to Guram, right, in his first fight, and I think he took that on short notice. And there's no shame in that. And oddly, now Guram is on the prelims, and Jordan is on the. Oh no, wait,
Guram is the curtain jerker.
Wait, I'm sorry, but did they? Am I mixing it up? Sorry.
No,
yes,
you've nailed it. He lost to Guram in his UFC debut.
Guram,
you
and
were
is
on
now
point.
on the main card. Yeah, that is very strange. Was that? I can't remember. Was that fight controversial? It wasn't controversial, was it?
No, it wasn't. But it was
competitive.
Guram was a major favorite, and Vucinic sort of overperformed on short notice. Basically, he lost because Guram started tackling him. Vucinic won the first round. Guram tackled him in the second and third, and had a really slick back take.
Right. I'm not pretending to be an expert on Jordan Vucinic, but everyone I know who follows the Cage Warriors scene, who follows the English scene, says this guy is going to be a dude. It is a dude already at 155 and will be like a player in the UFC. Like, not saying is he going to be a future champion, is he even going to be a top 10 guy, but it's going to be one of those tough outs at 155. And you could say the same about Chris Duncan as well. So I love that matchup in the main card. Probably, I would say all the matchups in the main card, probably flying under the radar the most. And could end up being fight of the night, or at least really, really competitive fight that we're talking about by the end of Saturday. Prelims, this doesn't even count. This isn't even this should be on the main card.
You're allowed to take it.
I'm taking it.
Fruit, but you're allowed to eat that fruit.
I'm so juiced up for Marcin Tybura and Mick Parkin.
Yeah,
Mick Parkin is tied for the longest streak at heavyweight with. Chat, go ahead. I'll give you a second, even though you all know the answer. Let's wait for 2 seconds. Well, there'll be a delay anyway, so I can see your answers. All right. Mick Parkin, of course, is tied 4-0 in the UFC, undefeated in his career. So the 4 straight wins in the UFC are tied with the immortal Salsa Boy, Waldo Cortez Acosta. This division, they're neck and neck guys fighting for that number 1 contender spot. It is not even a joke to say if Mick Parkin beats Marcin Tybura, perennial top 10 guy, he is 1 fight away from challenging for the UFC heavyweight title. There's a lot of course, we're waiting to see what happens with Tom Aspinall, John Jones, all that bull crap. But if that fight doesn't happen, Tom Aspinall probably fights someone else first, and then he's going to need a challenger after that. It could be his countryman, Mick Parkin. So there's a lot of stakes there. I honestly don't know how good Mick Parkin is. Tybura is the perfect test for him. He is the top 10 gatekeeper guy. If you are not a good heavyweight, he will expose you. Marcin Tybura will expose you. He's just, again, very well-rounded guy, very experienced, has finishing ability. So I'm not picking a winner here. I just think it's exciting that we will be when you do your 3 stars at the end of UFC London, if Mick Parkin's managed to beat Tybura, he will be one of those 3 stars. And that just sounds so bizarre, but that is where we are. So definitely I'm going with that fight. I guess I can't make him my fighter to watch now. He really should be both. Yeah, that was the third one, right? Jed, fighter to watch.
Correct, fighter to watch.
Okay. Sort of. I'm very curious what the UFC has with Pooja Tomar. She probably did not win.
Is that the first Indian fighter in UFC history? Is that correct?
So, no, Anshul Jubilee was the first fighter. Well, Anshul Jubilee was the first. Technically, she's the first Indian fighter to win a fight because apparently road to UFC fights do not count.
Do not count.
But I don't know. But again, I don't know who keeps track of that, because I would have thought the same thing of Ultimate Fighter finales have always counted as part of a fighter's UFC record. That's like you win your Ultimate Fighter, you're 1-0 in UFC. But based on what I see from a lot of database, I know Topology does count road to UFC wins as UFC wins. But based on the broadcast, I think the UFC itself, when Pooja won that very questionable decision over Rayan dos Santos, they said she was the first Indian fighter. Either way, either the first or second Indian fighter to win a UFC fight, the first woman, certainly. And they put her in there with the right person, with Shauna Bannon, who like I know there was quite a bit of hype around Shauna before the UFC, but she went to like a split call with Alice Ardelian, and maybe you can question the judging, but it was hardly a dominant performance by Shauna Bannon. So I don't know how good she is. This is like really intriguing to me. But I single out Pooja because yes, listen, India is a huge market. Maybe I'm biased. I now married into an Indian family, so I'm certainly intrigued. I'd like to be able to tout an Indian fighter for them to watch. So if she can show, and even though she maybe didn't win that Ryan Dos Santos fight, like she's a scrapper, man. She showed like a ton of fire. Like it was a surprisingly exciting contest to watch. So if she brings that, and can be like a 500 fighter in the UFC, like she's gonna bring a lot of intrigue to her. So I don't mean to put too much pressure on Pooja, but that would be my one to watch. If she actually scores another win here, like a more convincing win, she's gonna be making some headlines for the next little while.
Yeah, I'm interested in if she can just be relevant because of all the things you say, like that, major market. It would just be a good thing to have a fighter from just a massive place like India to actually be competitive. I don't know. That fight is terrible. So we'll see. For my fighter to watch, this is extremely easy. It's Lonnie Kavanaugh. He was my top rated prospect coming off the most recent season of Contender Series. I am far from the only person who thinks that this kid is going to be a star and fight for a belt, if not outright win a belt. So that's pretty obvious for me. My main card fight, I'm a little torn. Like you said, the main card fights are all pretty good. I am a little like, I'm certainly interested in the Wood Charrier fight, but I think just because we haven't talked about it, I will give love to the Gunny Nelson Kevin Holland fight because it's really weird. And I love me a weird fight. Gunnar Nelson hasn't fought in 2 years. He fights every March, but skipped last March for some reason. Like that's just his schedule now. And for a guy who was like a top 10 dude with maybe title aspirations at one point in his career, he settled into just one of the more odd careers I can remember. And he's fighting Kevin Holland, a dude who historically can't wrestle. So like should be able to beat Kevin Holland because the way you beat Kevin Holland is you tackle him. That being said, the last time Kevin Holland is finally going back to welterweight after just repeatedly getting his ass kicked at middleweight and finally acknowledging, yeah, I actually am not that good at this weight class. I can win some fights because I am talented, but I'm a welterweight. So he's finally doing that and going to compete at welterweight where he has been a better wrestler than he's certainly been a middleweight. So I'm just really interested to see like, what's Gunnar Nelson look like these days? Haven't seen him in 2 years. Is Kevin Holland at welterweight going to be able to stop a takedown? Like, I just don't know what to expect. So I'm interested in that. And I think that's a really fun feature bout. So I'll give that the shout on the main card. And the prelim, obviously you took the Tybora Parkin fight, which low hanging fruit is the ripest. Terrific heavyweight over incoming one way or the other there. I guess give me a fight that nobody is talking about. The low keyest of bangers. A rematch, AK. I don't know if you knew this. We got a rematch on the prelims on Saturday. A rematch of a Cage Warriors contest. A amateur Cage Warriors contest. Because there are like 7 Cage Warrior champions competing on this card on Saturday. One or two, I don't actually remember. I think only one, because I don't think Nathan Fletcher was a Cage Warriors champion. Nathan Fletcher and Cowlin Lochran are running things back from an AMI fight they had in 2018 on the Cage Warrior Amateur Series, whatever the hell you call that. Nobody knows that this is a rematch, but these two men have history together.
Who won? Who won?
Nathan Fletcher won by UD. Okay. So also a slight betting favorite in this one. Mainly, I just discovered this when I was doing like prep work for No Bets Bar. This was like, these two dudes fought before. I could not find video of it. I'm sure it is somewhere. It was also 2018, so it was a lifetime ago. But we've got a few Cage Warriors versus Cage Warrior fights going on, and Callum Lochran has fought like, of his 3 UFC fights, I think 2 of them have been fellow Cage Warriors opponents. So this is just a deeply funny fight to me in that regard. And the rematch, look, last week we got a rematch nobody wanted. I am certain that Callum Lochran has been seething over this loss for the past 7 years and finally gets his chance at redemption on Saturday in the professional ranks.
Damn, you went in deep.
The deep
You went in
cuts.
deep. Normally, I'm pretty good at like picking out rematches, but boy, so Fletcher Lochran 2.
Fletcher Lochran 2. It was the penultimate amateur fight of Nate Fletcher's MMA amateur career at Cage Warriors Academy, Ireland 1 is where that took place. So, guys, get ready. This is big time things happening.
I just want to see if anyone in the comments remembers this fondly.
That would be absolutely incredible if somebody remembered this fight. I'd have a huge amount of respect to them. We're about to pop into the question section, so start firing your questions into the chat, y'all. We'll go for a little bit after, but right before we do that, AK, you know the game. We play it every time I host it. Saturday, they're going to be giving out 50 grand worth of bonuses. A lot of fighters are going to be begging for those $50,000 bonuses. Which 4 of them are going to get the 50K bonuses?
Like, I picked Jan Blachowicz, but obviously if Ulberg KOs him, I mean, that's a bonus for sure. But no, let's keep this in line with predictions. Gunnar Nelson after he chokes out Kevin Owens. So sorry, Kevin. Vucenic and Duncan, fight of the night. And then we'll get a performance of the night bonus from Jai Herbert. Jai Herbert will KO Chris Video.
Wow, Casey.
Go with that.
Shots fired, Casey.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot.
We'll let you get in here and defend your boy in
trying-
moments, Casey.
I was
But
trying to remember.
That's effed up. That's effed up. Like, why? What are you basing this on? AK in your Tesla. What are you basing it on?
I'm basing this on.
Moving on. Let's go. Jeez,
It just feels like it's a good time for Jai. I forgot. I was like, is Taco the guy that trains? I totally.
Taco 2-0, 2 knockouts.
2-0. The
Going to enemy
disrespect.
territory.
Disrespect. Demolish his opponents like no one else has done in the UFC.
Well, I have to stand by the pick now because I've said it. When I always tell people, you say something, you can't change it.
You can't. You cannot change your mind.
Is that your catchphrase?
We firmly believe that.
Yep.
Other than rules rule is actually AK's catchphrase. For my bonuses, I will go Nathaniel Wood, Morgan Charrier, taking the fight of the night. I think that's going to be a fun little scrap. Alexia Thainara, I think has a really decent chance of just tackling and submitting Molly McCann, which will be sad for all of the fans, but kind of funny.
And for my best friend, Mike Heck, how sad. Like, he's had some rough luck with, like, injuries. Because, what was it?
Had some rough luck. Damon's had the worst luck, but he's had a rough run here.
Who was it that he was supposed to smoke Schnell? Like, he had someone versus Schnell.
Oh, that was last year.
That was last year. That was bad. And then now he thought Molly McCann
Armin pulled out the day of.
Armin's the bad one.
Ilya bailed. Like, Ilya may not fight because he just left his weight class.
And now
Molly McCann is now fighting. She's an underdog.
He saw an easy 150 points there or something. You know, Estela Nunes, that's exactly what she's there for. And then suddenly this newcomer who is known for her submission skills step in and just ruin
scenes. Really tough season for Mike Heck. And I think I'm shy one performance bonus. I'll give it to Kevin Hahn. I think he's going to knock out Gunny. I think he's going to learn how to defend a takedown. And he's going to knock out Gunny, who hasn't fought in 2 years. And I don't even know why he's competing anymore. But that's where we're at. I would normally call Casey in right now. But Casey, you're already here. Yeah. Before we get to the peeps and their questions, anything you'd care to say about this card beyond defending your boy Taco from the egregious aspersions cast on him by one Alexander K. Lee?
Those dispersions. I dig this card. There's a lot of fights on it, but it's the time. I mean, I love afternoon cards, depending on where you are in the States. So I think the first fight for me starts at 10 a.m., 1 o'clock for you guys. So I have no issue for 13 fights. Enjoy your lunch, while you're watching fights. It's a good time. I like this card. It's fun. This is a proper fight night.
It's a proper fight night. I think that's exactly correct. Also, didn't mention this at all, but shout out. We have an opportunity for the Chris Duncan parlay. 2 Chris Duncans on roster, both of them fighting. Last time that happened was UFC 280, whatever the Leon Usman 3 was. 286? I don't remember which one. 286, that's correct. Also in the O2, also headlined by Leon Edwards. Both of them won their fights. lock in, boys. Going to be a hell of a Saturday.
100% success rate.
100% success rate of the Chris Duncan parlay.
Chris Duncan.
We're 1,000% running it back this weekend, despite the fact that Chris Duncan, who is the one who's fighting Jordan Vucinic, is a fairly sizable underdog. But doesn't matter. We ride. Casey, what are the peeps saying? Because now we turn the show over to y'all for a little bit, not too long, but however long there are good questions, and then we'll get out of here and let everybody get ready for tomorrow.
First question, super chat. It's a very good super chat, by the way. Very good.
Is this a super chat from yesterday?
No. Oh, no, it's not.
We do owe a super chat from yesterday because some well-meaning person fired a chat literally while we were doing our outro, so we should get that at some point. Lazy Bed. Taco gonna get the W and AK's Tesla's pink slip. Racing for slips this weekend, are you, AK?
Oh. First of all, you'll never see an electric. Oh no, that's not true. We saw an electric car in the most recent Fast and Furious film, and of course, it was owned by a villain. Obviously, only villains.
A villain.
Yes. You will never see anyone in the Fast and Furious crew drive an electric car. No, you'll certainly never see one raced for. That's I don't think the Tesla drivers are part of that community. It's just that you don't get that cool rev. You don't get that. You can't put. As far as I know, you cannot put NOS in a Tesla. So immediately disqualified.
Wait, do your rev sound? You can't get you do it.
It was a.
Wow, I'm just saying, learn the lesson from Jesse. You don't want to be racing for slips out there, AK.
Oh,
you don't want to be racing for slips. RIP. Man,
he'll be back. He'll be back in the 11th one.
Okay, do you know?
Honestly, they should just bring him back. Screw it. Who cares?
Speaking of,
I actually testified against Johnny Tran and have been living a whip pro for the last 20 years.
Oh,
it would be so sick to bring.
You did it,
Jesse. You're welcome, Fast franchise. I think your movies have become terrible, but I will still watch all of them.
Now I have to check if this actor's alive.
Good.
Before
also
we leave the
question.
Fast and Furious topic, AK, did you ever ride the Fast and Furious section at the Universal Studios? The tour, did you ever go through that?
Sadly, no.
Because they just closed the Fast and Furious ride at Universal Studios.
Wow, gone before I even had a chance to recognize it.
Gone too soon.
I've seen you the video. There was a bunch of people shot videos of the last ride because you go through it and everyone knows the lines and there's holograms of Vin Diesel and everyone chanted family. It was great. So it was
scary, but
family.
Good. All right, I'll send it to you later. All right, other questions we got. Hold on.
Thanks, Lazy.
Thank you, Lazy.
Sahil, Jed's a true champion. Thank you.
Agree.
I don't know what I deserve that for, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
People, this is your chance to ask questions. Questions.
Joey Boza. Molly McCann was supposed to face Estela Nunes. Instead, she is welcoming Alexia Tharina. It's Thainara, not Tharina, to the UFC. Was Molly gifted an easier opponent? Don't know much about Alexia. No, she definitely got things worse. Undeniably, I think that this went worse. The one thing I will say, Alexia is very unproven, still very green. I think this is her UFC debut, in fact.
Mm-hmm. It is, yep.
I just want to make sure I'm correct on that. Yeah.
Yep.
But she's coming off the most recent season of Contender Series where she looked good. I graded her as a round 2 prospect, not top tier, but somebody who's probably going to stick around the promotion. And more importantly, she just has a defined skill set that is very clearly the weakness of Molly McCann. She could tackle people and she could grapple them. And Estela Nunes was a much more winnable fight. Molly McCann still certainly can win this fight, but I do think the worst of all worlds. I think this is a harder opponent with just nothing to gain, right? Fighting a Contender Series person is just not going to help elevate your stock. Not that Molly needs it, but I think it's much worse for her.
Yeah, if you remember, we were talking about the last time Molly fought in London, 2023. She fought Julia Stoliarenko, a fine, experienced fighter, but also someone who's capable of grappling, and she lost by first round armbar. So I think Stoliarenko is better than Thainara, but because I've seen her fight more, so I don't know. Thainara might be legitimately a top prospect, and again, most importantly, definitely someone who's going to test Molly's grappling and submission skills. So I think in many ways, yeah, I agree. Just a worse matchup on paper. Nunes was the one. I mean, Nunes. I think 0-4 in the UFC. Like that's why you keep fighters like that around, was to match them with Molly in England. And not great, man, not great. But hey,
still winnable. I still absolutely think Molly can win this fight.
Yeah, she might prove us all wrong.
I think it's hard.
Highlight reel knockout. Could be a highlight reel
she was
knockout for Molly.
Definitely going to beat Estela Nunes.
Yes.
She's definitely going to beat Estela Nunes. That is not quite the case in this one.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Boza. One more from Mr. Boza.
Is there a guaranteed title shot on the line? The co-main event with Blachowicz versus UIberg with Magomed beating Alex Pereira. Kind of addressed this already. No, though I do think it is. If UIberg wins, I think he will get the next crack at the winner of the rematch between Ankalaev and Pereira. Wouldn't say guaranteed, but especially if he wins impressively, I think he is certainly right there. But yeah, I don't think Blachowicz gets anything for winning other than staying a top 5 guy. Honestly, if Blachowicz wins, what he gets is a fight with Yuri Prochazka.
Yeah, nothing is guaranteed, guys. Nothing is guaranteed. Again, especially at 205 and heavyweight, where like again, there's just these weird moving pieces at the top that it doesn't matter how successful you are at the mercy of some of these bigger name fighters. So it's a bit silly. So yeah, no guarantees. No way.
You guys were talking earlier about in the main event, if either man loses, how they would most likely never get a title shot. Is 170 really lacking stars? Because I kind of don't believe that, just because there doesn't seem to be any kind of, okay, say Brady is out of the title run, but there's no other, it's not like there's a line, right?
There is a line at 170 though. Like 170 has more of a line than anything. There's
Shavkat, and that's Shavkat. Everyone's kind of the same after that.
Yeah, but like if he loses, he goes to the back of that queue. He's not in there anymore.
I guess in the sense that like just marketability, like it was just it would be like almost impossible for him to get back up there.
And like we said, it wasn't. We were really clear, not impossible, unlikely, because he is 32. He'd still have to win. But like if he loses, he immediately goes behind Shavkat, Ian Machado, Gary, Joaquin Buckley, theoretically Islam. Depending on what happens in the Jack Della Maddalena Bilal, like behind that, like that's 5 dudes in front of him. Like that's. And you've got guys like Carlos Prates, Michael Morales, like those dudes coming up. Like I think the 170 is one of them. Yeah, 170 is frankly, one of the more like interesting weight classes for the next 2 years, because they're starting to seed ground for all the old dudes. Like the Gilbert Burns is starting to drop off, and you've got a crop of dudes coming along with sort of fully formed contenders in Buckley, Gary, Shavkat, Jack Della, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Would you put Leon Edwards as? I guess is Sean Brady? Is he in that new crop or is he in that old crop? Where would you put him?
He's like current. I think current. I don't think he's present.
He's a little tweenery, right? Like he's not the Carlos Prates, Michael Morales.
But he's not
Gilbert. I put him the Ian Machado.
He's not
Gary,
Gilbert Burns.
the Ian Machado Gary Buckley group, right? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
He's young enough that he could get back there, but the road is going to be really hard.
Okay. And for Leon Edwards, like we talked about if he takes a loss, but is he only getting all these main events, like fight night main events, strictly because of his ranking, or is he actually popular, but we just don't see it because we're in the States?
I can't speak to that. I assume that he is.
You know what I'm trying to say?
I assume he's relatively popular in England.
Yeah. I feel sometimes we oversell how unpopular he is. I feel like, but then people in England, he seems to sell out the arena, and the UFC seems to be behind him in that sense.
But Casey, what does that mean? Because Derek Lewis sold out an arena, like and Derek Lewis is a popular fighter, I guess. I guess that's what we're saying is. And what else? What was the other? What was the other recent shows that? Okay, they've broken all the. They keep breaking the gate records. What were the other?
I think Leon Edwards is regionally popular, would be my guess, and he's a little elevated because he was a champion and he had such an iconic title win. So he's probably a little elevated, but like Leon Edwards is, and this is purely a guess. I don't live in England. I cannot speak to this with like super advanced knowledge, but like every time he has headlined a show, they have done well. Like the British fans are behind him because that's sort of how this sport works in general. But I don't think he's going to do as long as he's not the champion, he will only be fighting in England, is my guess. Like they're not going to be like, hey, let's do a fight night card in the Apex, because he's certainly above the Apex.
Mm-hmm.
And they go to England once or twice a year. So he will just always be doing that until he gets the belt back, in which case things open up.
All right.
I'm just trying to look at the fight cards from last year. Oh, Ball Arena, right. Rose was in there. Yeah. I guess they have some names in there. Yeah. I was in Colorado though. Listen, they're just smart enough to be booking people with regional ties, and it works.
I would say Leon Edwards is less popular than Rose Namajunas, but that is purely speculative.
Maybe in the US, I don't know.
I can't prove that. I mean globally. Like certainly in England, Leon is much more popular than Rose. But like if you just went to random location, I think the UFC would be much more likely to put Rose on top of random location card than they would Leon.
Rose is in the main.
Sure.
Is she the main event for Atlanta, or is that just a fight on that card?
I'm assuming that will be the main event since that's a fight night. But
it's not finished yet. Yeah,
the
card is still coming. Card is still coming together. But they would certainly be fine with it being the main event.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
not confirmed, but I'd say possible.
I'm more surprised that Miranda Maverick's in the main event.
That's really the question, is whether the UFC would put Miranda Maverick in the main event of a thing. And I'm not sure about that. So that's either going to be co-main, though. If it's not main, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I figure main or co-main. All right, cool. Thank you. What else we got here?
From Sky River Rain, do you guys know why Arnold Allen isn't booked for this? Injured again? Yes. Injury. I saw him post not that long ago. He's like in the process of recovery. He's like pretty far along, I think, from his YouTube. But to the best of my understanding, he had some injury issue that he had to work through.
Okay.
Because otherwise it would make sense for him to be on this card 100%. Brandon QFG, thoughts on Kavanaugh's ceiling? 125 becoming very fun with Gucci coming back as well. So this is AK obviously referencing Ariel Helwani yesterday reporting that the UFC is in talks with Kyoji Horiguchi to return potentially, I think, for the Azerbaijan card, but I might be conflating these things. And I saw this morning, Kyoji give an interview where he said, yes, there are talks between him and the UFC, and that Nobuyuki Sakakibara is in support of this potentially happening. I mean, I guess one, just talk about Kyoji Horiguchi coming back, because that's pretty cool. And two, I've brought it up a lot in recent shows because there are a lot of 125 prospects that I am enamored with, but flyweight looking like it's going to be really fun over the next few years. AK, that was for you.
Oh, okay. No, I thought you were going to elaborate more on that. Yeah, no, listen, flyweight's always fun, but it's nice that we're getting some fresh names in there. He's only 25 years old, so at this point, it's really hard to predict his ceiling. We've certainly seen nothing to, deter us from thinking he could be a top 10 guy someday, could be a title challenger someday. It's just really early, and I like how they're booking him. I think they gave him the right set of opponents. This is only his second UFC fight. But we won't be talking about him as like a legitimate contender until like 2027. Like this is put a pin in this, right? Because I think the ceiling is high. But again, we're talking about the UFC, especially the flyweight division, which is like it's not the deepest roster, but it's so competitive. And there are young guys. Like he's not the only young guy they have at flyweight right now who's kind of buzzing around. Like keep in mind, Josh Van is like 24 years old, and he's like.
Josh Van is younger than that. I believe Josh Van is 23. Ray Cerruti,
crazy, and he's like
22.
Yeah, and Joshua is like 7 UFC fights deep already. That's crazy. And again, another guy who I hope we don't try and talk about him for title stuff until like end of 2026 or something. Like I just hope they can bring these guys along the right way, because they're not just talented. These are exciting. Like these guys are exciting fighters, and I know flyweight is never going to be this, sells 1.5 million pay-per-views division for whatever reason. People just have this idea in their head that like, I don't want to watch guys who were shorter than me fight, or like, which is, I don't understand at all, whatever. But as far as like this continuing to be a relevant division, continuing to be a highlight of like every card that they're on, like Lonnie's going to be a big part of that. So I think his ceiling, again, this could change in 6 months. That could change on Saturday night, depending how that fight goes. But I do think his ceiling is someone who could absolutely fight for a title someday.
Yeah, I've been really clear. I think Connie Kavanaugh's ceiling is holding the belt. Not saying he will. I think that is his ceiling. And flyweight rocks. Josh Van, Ray Cerruti, Tatsuro Taira, Muhammad Makhachev, who I know is no longer in the UFC, but I suspect will return before too terribly long. Andre Lima, who fought last weekend or the weekend before, I can't keep track. Like just a whole bunch of dudes who are 25 years old or younger who are already awesome. Like it's gonna, I've been saying it. This is gonna be the new bantamweight in a couple of years where people are like, man, everybody in this weight class rules. Like, yeah, flyweight is coming along unbelievably well. Every year it seems like the Contender Series has a couple of just like hot shit flyweight prospects too. So I really like Lonnie Kavanaugh to do some damage in this weight class over time.
I wonder how
And
many.
obviously Gucci coming back is sick. Like that's just the best.
We got to get him back one more. He needs to have one more UFC run before he kind of hits that post prime part of his career. I mean, because
Horiguchi versus Pantoja. That's all I need.
Anyone, yeah.
I don't know why we're trying to put Horiguchi versus somebody. Screw that.
There's no need. Yeah.
Pantoja, straight up, do this.
It's so weird. If Kai, man, I love Kai Kerr, but if he got a direct title shot with never fighting in the UFC, Gooch absolutely deserves one. So it's but I said deserve.
I'm also just now noticing this. Kaya Sakura is not ranked in the UFC rankings, which is wild. They gave him a title fight, and it's like, nah, he doesn't even need to be ranked. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kyoji versus not Brandon Royval, Alejandro Pantoja. Pump it into my veins right now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon.
We'll go for about 4 more minutes,
yeah,
Casey.
One more. Yeah.
So 1 or 2 more questions. Get on in here.
Got 2 more.
Liam Devine, Jed, did you see, I'm going to say that's Lou and not Jew, Lou DiBella's interview with Ariel where he talks about the state of boxing. AK, favorite Celtic player other than AJ? It's Jota for me. AK, I'll let you speak to this because I did not see this interview. So I have no idea what Lou DiBella said about the state of boxing. If either of you know and want to clue me in, terrific. But I cannot speak to this whatsoever.
No, I don't think I saw it. I might have seen some clips here and there, but it's sort of lost on me. Celtic, of course, we're talking about Glasgow Celtic and the Scottish Premiership, not some other. I think there's a basketball team that also has the name Celtic. Something I don't know. I'm not familiar. But yes, Celtic currently 13 points up in the standings. If we're going to win yet another win, they're like 49th league championship, whatever. I love Alistair Johnson.
It sounds really fun to be a fan of.
It's great. Listen, I have one stress-free team, and it's Celtic. AJ is Alistair Johnson, of course, Canadian boy playing in Scotland, playing great, one of the best defenders out there. And Jota, we recently brought him back. Great Portuguese player, recently came back, so happy for him. But I love an American. That's actually my favorite Celtics, an American player. His name is Cameron Carter Vickers. If he had started against Panama the other day, I'm telling you they would have won. I have no reason to believe that. I just feel like Cameron Carter Vickers. The guy is a friggin' fridge. Takes no crap on defense, and I'm a fan. It's my favorite guy.
Oh, God. Muhammad Bruce Lee is correct. I didn't even think of this. Pantoja and Kyoji are ATT guys. They train together at ATT too.
I believe they have been interviewed. Both have been interviewed about it, and they have said, I think so. Plus, ATT is one of those isn't it like one of those super teams where you're not. I mean, I would imagine, of course,
it is, but they train together.
Of course, frequently. I mean, which is why they're both. I think there's a reason they've both been excelling in their respective, promotions. Right? Is like they're just the iron is just keeping the iron as sharp as a friggin' katana. But I do think they would fight each other. I can't remember. They have spoken about it. I don't think either's been calling for it for sure. I know, and maybe Kyoji hasn't been. Yeah, maybe Kyoji hasn't been asked about it, but I think Pantoja has come up, and I think he has said in a title fight they'd be up for it. But yeah, they're not rushing to fight each other. No, they're friends. They're friends, and they've made each other so much better.
Man, that flyweight room with the two of them and Makhachev, just God
crazy.
Damn, I would watch the shit out of that
with
training.
Makhachev taking them down and doing nothing. Yeah,
just holding them, but just holding them so tight, just holding them, just the tightest hold. It would be best. I didn't even think of that. Good pull, Muhammad Bruce Lee. And they don't have to. Kyoji's fought at bantamweight a bunch. Pantoja is pretty close to being like, hey man, let me try for a second belt. So maybe they don't have to, but man, I would love to see that fight if you could make it happen somehow.
Okay, my favorite Celtic, Robert Parrish.
Nice.
Gross.
I don't have any favorite Celtics, so but Liam, sorry I can't.
That's the correct answer.
I don't have a clue.
That's the correct answer, Jed. There is no favorite Boston Celtic.
And our last question before we get out.
Alo, how you guys brackets doing? So March Madness officially kicked off. I guess technically it kicked off with the like play-in games or whatever on Tuesday, but
Yeah.
like the official 64 fired up yesterday, and my bracket died almost instantaneously. I didn't believe it, but I wanted to believe in the University of Georgia Bulldogs to win their first tourney game in over 20 years. I think it was the Pardon My Take guys pointed this out, and I saw it on social. Somebody like linked me to it. UGA has 2 national championships in football in the past like 25 years or whatever, and has not won a tourney game. We're the only college sports team in the country that's won a national championship in football and not won a tournament game. Over
Really?
That's impressive.
we're really bad. We had Ant Edwards when he was the like consensus one overall, and we went like 500.
Didn't even make the tournament that year.
Yeah.
Sorry. There was no tournament. Though I will say that was COVID year. Sorry,
yes.
That was COVID year. There was no tournament.
We were like 500. It was
NIT. Probably would have made NIT.
Horrible. And have always, for as long as I went there, we were always terrible. They were super fun to go to. This year, I was like, they're going to do it. And they're going to upset whoever was Houston or whatever is the one in their bracket. And then they didn't score a point for the first 6 minutes of their game against Gonzaga. It was 18-0. I was like, oh, well, I'm done caring about this tournament this year. Cool.
Listen, you got a great Canadian.
Such a hard watch yesterday.
You got
to watch the whole game. Were you watching?
Oh, yeah, I watched it all. It was working, so I just had it, and I was like, I was prepared to not work yesterday, be like, I'm working, but I was going to sit, and then we did not score, and it was 18-0. I was like, I'll just keep this on over here while I write up some articles now, because we're getting ruined.
Ryan Nemhard, Canada's own. Don't mess with them. They're going all the way this year. Actually, I don't know. I don't know if I'm rooting for Gonzaga, but I do like Ryan Nemhard. Casey, I assume you love the sports balls, but I imagine you don't fill out a bracket.
No, I like Gonzaga because I think it's a funny word.
Yes,
that's about it.
It's a fun word. Definitely a fun word.
That's about it. I know. I always know Gonzaga. It's like because I don't think it's a real college. I think it's just a funny word because I have never heard of anyone going. I went
Do you know where it is? Do you know where Gonzaga is? Casey?
Zero. I have zero. No idea. I have no idea. I'm trying to go. Oh, it's in Connecticut or no? And then
it is no. It is in Spokane, Washington. I
had no clue.
I didn't think I knew it was in Spokane.
Yeah, I am obsessed with March Madness, but I actually have not filled out a bracket for like over a decade. Like I just don't care. I don't care about it. I just know I'm not going to get it right. I love March Madness. It is one of the best.
It's incredibly fun,
dude. It's amazing. It's one of my top 3 favorite sporting events. I mean, all year for sure.
The McNeese Clemson game was sick, where they were putting the boots to him and then tried to just throw it at the end. It was awesome. March Madness is fun. I'm sad that my Bulldogs continue our 24-year streak or whatever it is at this point of not winning a tourney game. But we made it.
Other people, don't forget the women's tourney. Duke's going all the way. Toby Fournier, ACC Freshman of the Year, future. I'm telling you,
I don't know if South Carolina is going to win.
I don't know if they're going to win this year, but I'm going Toby Fournier, future Toronto Tempo. All right, I'm calling it. She will be drafted by the Toronto.
That's the Toronto team's name. That's a team.
Yeah, it's kind of blah.
That's a horrible team name.
And we're right. Listen, they're working on it. It's all good. It'll grow on people. It'll grow on people.
Be something like with Raptors. You don't have to be Raptors. You can do something else.
No, I didn't want
to. I don't know. You can do something better than Tempo.
That's what WNBA. Well, I wanted the pterodactyls.
Yes, that's way better. That's way better. The pterodactyls is way better.
Terror-dactyls for the record.
Okay, that's still better, but pterodactyls just
dactyl with a Q.
Okay. I was like trying. Where do you even? And then I realized where you can put a Q in it. But okay.
Yeah.
Sports ball. Yeah, that's right. DJ Serenity now. Sports ball. There's plenty of sports ball. There's golf taking place this week in Valspar Open. I wrote about that.
Oh, golf ball. I love golf ball.
That's right. I'm now a golf writer too. Man of many talents, not as talented as AK, and certainly not as talented as the bass producer in the game, E. Casey Leiden. Thank you both for joining me for this preview show. Thank all of you for tuning in, hear us chat about UFC London. And tomorrow, you know what it is. We're going to have a pre-fight Q&A, me and EKC. UFC London coverage, dirty boxing coverage, post-show, all that. Keep it locked to MMAfighting.com. All your coverage needs. Again, thanks for tuning in. Love y'all.
Bye.
Happy birthday,
Hey.
AK.
Happy birthday. Oh, AK, remember, they recalled the Tesla Cybertrucks, just so you know.
So
Take
so
all
it's
of
really
them.
easy. It's cheap to get one now.
Yeah, they've been recalled. Just safety first.